It was another brutal night for the Royals against the Yankees at Kauffman Stadium. We'll give you our reaction next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you get your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wanting to know how this channel works, we bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes, as well as 60-second YouTube shorts on our YouTube channel after each and every Royals game. We also have just begun a Royals postcast, which is hosted by Chance Lebo. He'll give you a live 15-minute breakdown after each and every Royals game, so you really can't miss any sort of Royals coverage that we'll be bringing you after each and every game. Now, before we dive into our show tonight, I want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. I was out at Kauffman Stadium tonight. I wish I wasn't after sitting through the results of that game. It really was never a contest, and the way that last night was never really a contest. And I'm going to go as far to say that I believe this Yankees team just has the Royals number. I feel you will come across a team like that once a season where there's just somebody, if you are a middle-of-the-pack team, a contending team, they just have your number. You just can't find a way to beat them. And it's not to make an excuse. I mean, the Royals are going to need to find a way to beat the Yankees if they are to get to the ALCS, get to the World Series, which is everybody's hope, every Royals fan's hope. And with the way they've played in these first 5 games, now winless in the 5 attempts, they're nowhere close to the New York Yankees. The Yankees have beaten them in every single aspect of this game. And yes, I can chalk it up to, well, you know, it happens in baseball. You get your ass kicked every once in a while, and sometimes more than once by the same team. And this is not new. There were even really good Royals teams that got pushed around by the New York Yankees. But out there tonight, when you got your ace on the bump and the Yankees are starting Clark Schmidt, who has a 4+ ERA, and as good as Schmidt has been really from time to time, it's not a terrible thing to not get a ton of runs off of Clark Schmidt. But after facing Max Fried, I would have expected you to get a little bit more off of Clark Schmidt than you did tonight. Unfortunately for the offense, and an offense that has just not been good this year, you fall behind 5-0 by your second at bat. And Kris Bubic, as good as he's been, and as much as he was due for a bad outing, he didn't have his sharpest command. Maybe that was having a few extra days off, and that was the risk they ran with giving him a few extra days. I understand the reasoning, because this is a guy who's never thrown more than 140 innings in his big league career, and he's already near 80. And we're not even, up to a month before the end of the first half. I mean, he's got a ways to go. He is going to be well over 100 innings by the time we hit the All-Star break, and he'll probably be an All-Star as well. But tonight, that Yankees lineup, with still a lot of lefties out there, they did damage off of him. And it was only the 5 runs that he gave up in that one inning. But that 5 runs was enough. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, he was good in the other innings. He really wasn't, other than the first inning. He just didn't have his sharpest command. The Yankees were battling. As we've said so many times about that team, they don't go away. They will fight off pitch after pitch after pitch, and they'll do damage on the 9th or 10th pitch of the at-bat. And as I'm sitting there in my seat at Kauffman Stadium, I'm watching these at-bats in the second inning. You get the walk to Jazz Chisholm, and it was a bad call. It was strike 3 on Jazz Chisholm, and maybe that changes the outlook of the inning. but you didn't get him out. And then Anthony Volpe, he hits the ground ball to shortstop. He beats out the throw to first base. And there was another play that I thought, man, it's one you got to make. And Jack Caglione gets the broken bat, the ground ball to him at first base, his first start at first base. He had time to throw to second. And they'll always say, when in doubt, get one out. Right? If you don't feel that you can make that throw, you didn't get a good grip, which it looked like he didn't get a great grip. Instead of trying to force it in a 1-0 game and airmail it into left field, he just turns around and flips it to first base. I'm not putting everything on Jack Caglione there, but that was a play where you get the lead runner, 2 outs, runner at first. Let's get one guy here and go back and hit down 1-0. But the Yankees just never went away. Austin Wells, once again, ropes one into the gap. And then you got Paul Goldschmidt driving in more. You got Ben Rice driving in more. It's just endless. And I put this out there on Twitter that lineup, and yes, I understand the Royals lineup can frustrate you, and their inability to score runs has been a glaring problem in 68 games this year. But that Yankees lineup, man, they can end the game in a heartbeat. And in my opinion, they're not as loaded as they were last year. And that's pretty easy to say when you don't have Juan Soto and you don't have Giancarlo Stanton and you don't have Gleyber Torres. But they've made up for it in a lot of areas. And it just feels relentless. Man, they're not just going to get 1, they're going to get 2. And they're not just going to get 2, they're going to get 4. And they're going to get 5. And they're going to get 6. And on the mound, they're going to do their job. They made some mistakes in the 9th inning, and I'm not going to sit here and dwell on a 3-run 9th inning. The Royals showed some fight. They've done it before. They did it back in April. But I'm not going to sugarcoat a 6-3 loss. And I'm also not going to bring out the waterworks and say it's all over and this team's never going to go anywhere because they're going to have an opportunity. They're going to have many opportunities at that to bounce back. And when the Yankees leave town tomorrow, this is going to sound cowardice to say, and this is going to annoy a lot of people. It's going to piss a lot of people off. But I'm fine with the Yankees just leaving town. Whether you win or lose tomorrow, get them out of Kansas City. Because clearly this year, this is not a team they have played well against. I mean, they have not done anything well in the 5 games. That's been a difference in playing other teams this year. They've had good starts and good offensive numbers at times against different teams. They haven't gotten any of that in the 5 games against New York. And last year, it was kind of more of the same. I mean, they went 2-5 in the 7 games in which they saw New York. It was more competitive when they went to the Bronx in September, but it was not close at all when this team was playing them in Kansas City. And the Royals also had more of a cushion when they played the Yankees last June around the same time. I mean, the Royals had this rut they were in the middle of June last year, and they're going through one again. You lose tomorrow and you're under 500, and that's never a great feeling. And they're going to turn to Seth Lugo, and they're going to try to find a way to salvage one game. But after the first 2, I don't know how I can sit here and say, yeah, I feel good that they are at least due for a win. I can't say that. They have been outscored in this series 16-5. And all 3 runs came in the 9th inning tonight. And you had a drop pop-up. You had an error from, who was it? Mark Leiter Jr., who just botched the ball and then threw it down the line that scored another run. This has just been a problematic series. And it was a problematic series in the Bronx. And you're in danger tomorrow of being swept for the second time by the same team. You haven't been swept by anybody else. But you're in danger tomorrow of getting swept by that same team. It's a good Yankees team. Let's not get it twisted here. It is a talented Yankees team that has a good lineup, has a good rotation, and has a bullpen that does enough. Do I believe they're as good as last year's team? I don't. And this Royals team, through 68 games, is not as good as last year's team. But the only way that this can turn into a positive, and again, there's not many positives that come out of this series, but it's a gut check moment. Okay, even if you win or lose tomorrow, That should be a reality check. That team you're going to have to see in October again, you are not close to. You are not on the same playing field as the New York Yankees right now. And it pains me to say it, but with the sample size I got in 5 games, what happened in the offseason was not enough. If they were to run into this team in October, I'm not sure they could win a game. A lot has to change with this group, and I bet they will. This Royals team is going to win again. They're going to go on a hot stretch again. What's going to matter is, when is that hot stretch coming? Hopefully soon, and hopefully when the Yankees leave town. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, though we homered in the 9th inning tonight, I feel it's time to have a discussion about Salvador Perez. We'll talk about it next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about Monarch Money, our title sponsor of tonight's episode. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB for half off on your first year. And as I've said multiple times before, you want to take control of those finances, know where your money's going to, and not be completely blindsided by a charge on your bank accounts. Well, Monarch Money is going to keep everything in place for you. So I can't stress this enough. Get hooked up with them today. Maybe this segment was a long time coming. And, you know, maybe the home run tonight could spark something. And one of my maybe biased and most protected statements I've made on this podcast was that you never rule out Salvador Perez. And maybe protected statement's not the right term there. The player maybe I have protected more often, not even just a statement, just a player that I have given a lot of support to, put a shield around, has been Salvador Perez. Maybe that's nostalgia. Maybe that it's because he's such an icon and loves this city so much, and he wants to be a Royal for his entire career. And you go back over history, there have not been many players in their career that would have shared that same sentiment, where they get brought up through the organization, they debut with that team, and from day one, I don't want to play anywhere else. And you know what? We hear that from players. We hear, I don't want to play anywhere else. And then when their rookie deal's up, they go sign where they're given a lot of money. I mean, as great as that core was, right? As great as everybody on that team was. And I would never badmouth anybody on the 14 or 15 Royals. I just can't do it. I mean, it's too nostalgic, as I said. And those guys did so much for this city, as did the 85 squad, as did the 80 squad. But even those guys that were brought up together, they were not Royal lifers when it was all said and done. Not because they all didn't want to. It's just that they didn't play for the Royals their entire career. Like Eric Hosmer went to San Diego. Mike Moustakas got traded to Milwaukee. That was against, maybe what he wanted to do. But he played for other teams. When I'm just talking about a Royal lifer, Salvador Perez is one of the few. And he's never wanted to play elsewhere. And there was that story that came out in 2023 that he was willing to waive his no-trade clause if it meant bettering the team. So even when he was contemplating leaving the organization, it was only to ensure the betterment of the franchise. And I have always felt that when Salvador Perez is done playing, it should be, his own decision. I would hate to see a player like him, an icon like him, be forced out. It's painful to see it that way. Right? It's like watching, a pet that you have that's 13, 14 years old, and, they're just older. They move slower. And you remember the good times. You remember when they were younger. but you just have that sympathy for that pet. Not saying Salvador Perez is 14, 15 years old like an animal and he's barely even playing anymore. He's still got something left. He does. As I said, I'm going to stand by that statement of you can never count him out. Just when you feel like this is rock bottom. Man, he is slumping. He's struggling. He finds a way to get out of it. But the Royals do need to have an honest conversation. And it's going to happen at some point. Because we are 68 games in. And Salvador Perez is experiencing one of his worst seasons offensively. And the defense is just no longer there. And we know that's been a part of the regression over the last handful of years, but the offense has been there. And when we first brought up this fear of Salvador Perez's regression, the lack of power was the most concerning to me. Because even in down years, where Salvy would be down to 230, 235, man, he was still running into him. And he did tonight. He homered tonight. And like I said, sometimes it's just a swing that gets you going. And going into this series, I mean, Salvy had been playing better over his last 7 games, but I'm talking seasons worth here. I mean, you are talking about June 11th. This team is 500. And I go up and down the lineup. I feel I do this every single day. I go up and down the lineup and try to make sense of why this offense is the way it is. I understand that runners in scoring position has been a major issue where that wasn't last year. But man, I see Jonathan India at 252 now with a 679 OPS. Oh, Bobby Witt Jr. is not playing at an MVP level, but 287 is not bad. An 828 OPS. Michael Garcia is posting a 307 batting average, an 849 OPS. Vinny's hitting 280, a 764 OPS. Jack Caglione, he's still finding his footing, but hitting 242. It's not like he's hitting 100 in his first 10 games. You're getting 269 from Drew Waters. You're getting 281 from Nick Lofton. I understand batting averages and everything. Kyle Isbell, OPSing at 685. And that's where I go back to. Kyle Isbell is OPSing 685 and Salvador Perez is down to 638. That is your 5-hole hitter. And tonight, as I said, he homered. But that was his 6th home run of the year. And it really hasn't been awful in the last 15 games. He's slugging 426. He's getting on base at 281. He's homered 3 times. He's actually hitting 267 over his last 7 games. But again, I'm going the entire season here. And that, to me, is a big reason why this offense is struggling. They're just not getting the same Salvador Perez. And one of those things that was brought up maybe 2 years ago, and it was during a Salvador Perez slump, but then there was the hot stretch that he had. And that still may happen this year. Salvy may go on a tear and all is right in the world and the offense finally starts to click. But we can acknowledge that one of these days it's not going to happen. One of these years, that hot stretch is just not going to be as long as it once was. And Salvy's not going to be able to do what he's always been able to do. And that's just sports. That's baseball. Father Time is undefeated. And Father Time may be catching up to Salvador Perez. So that question that I just brought up, and it pains me to do a segment like this. As I said, I mean, Salvador Perez is an icon and always will be. And he'll have a statue, wherever the stadium may be in the future. He'll have a statue. He'll have his number retired. He'll have a ceremony and everything like that, as he's earned. He's deserved it. But this is a business about winning. And this question is not, should you bench Salvador Perez and you can't play him anymore? That's not going to happen. Salvy is still a big part of this team. But you might need to go about it in a different way. And again, this question can get answered one of 2 ways. The first one being, we're going to have him play through it. And we feel that our best chance to win baseball games is Salvador Perez in the lineup and doing mostly catching for the rest of the season. And if he's not catching, he's DHing. But he is playing every single day. And he may miss a total of 15 games this year. But to me, that is maybe a little bit reckless. It just might be at the end of the day. It might be a reckless decision because this is a guy that might just not be a 145, 150 game player anymore. I mean, Freddie Fermin may not be an everyday player, but limiting the workload might benefit him. He's going to be on the roster. We all know that. He's not going anywhere. Unless he were to get banged up or he's injured, he's going to be on the roster and he's going to play a lot. But could you curb this a little bit and say, well, let's DH him, let's catch him, but let's get Fermin more playing time, get him off his feet a little bit more to prolong this run. That's the hope here. You can prolong this run and make sure that Salvador Perez is not going to have this season be his last in terms of league average production. You got to get more, though. And that question's going to have to be answered sooner rather than later. How can you work around these struggles of Salvador Perez? Because right now in the 5-hole, it has become a huge and glaring issue in the lineup. As I said, I'm never going to count out Salvador Perez, but a way to make sure the hot stretch gets here and it stays here for a while, maybe he needs more off days. Maybe he needs more days off his feet and Freddie Fermin in the lineup so he can get reset and get back to where we all know that he can be. Okay, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, let's talk about regrouping after this series and what lies ahead for the Royals. That's next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Before our final segment, I want to tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. As we've mentioned, the Royals will wrap up their season series with the New York Yankees tomorrow night. It's not going to be an afternoon game, and they won't have an off day right until next Monday. It's not that big of a deal. They had an off day this Monday, and I believe they have an off day every single Monday this month. So they're going to have some time to get rest, regroup a little bit, and get their mind right. But tomorrow, to me, will be that opportunity to regroup, whether you win or lose, and look ahead to what you got. If you want to chalk it up as, man, the Yankees have our number, they clearly have just bested us in every way, shape, and form of the sport, and they have kicked our ass in all 6 games of the series, well, okay, you can use that because even a win tomorrow doesn't make you feel great about how the season series went. It can go a long way because you still avoided a sweep. You didn't get humiliated in all 3 games. You found a way to salvage 1 game. You lost the previous 5, but you found a way to win 1 game. But win or lose, you have to find a way to regroup because you have a team coming in that has been playing worse than anybody else, not named the Colorado Rockies. Not overall record-wise. There have been teams that have struggled worse. But of the last month and a half, there has not been a team that has had more problems than the Athletics. They're 3-7 over their last 10. They've lost 3 in a row, but they've won like 5 of their last 30, it feels like. I mean, they've really had problems. And so this point about regrouping is, if you feel that the Yankees just had your number. Well, you better come out and make sure that the Athletics don't get a single game in Kansas City this week. I mean, that just can't happen. You can't let this disaster of a series against New York bleed into the series against the Athletics and then bleed into the series against the Rangers. This is going to be a really rough stretch going up until the All-Star break. I mean, the Royals are going to see the Padres, they're going to see the Rays, they're going to see the Dodgers, they're going to see the Mariners, they're going to see Arizona on the road, they're going to see the Mets in their final series before the first half comes to a close. And then right after that, they're going to see the Cubs at Wrigley Field and then Cleveland at home. There's going to be some really tough games on the schedule. And so this part about regrouping is still having the capacity, the mental capacity to go, our season is not done. We are not playing great baseball, but we know we are far more capable than what we are showing. And there are more than a few of you out there that have given up on this team. And I didn't want to come across this way last night as saying you're wrong and this team is going to go on a run and you're all going to look stupid. Because I don't believe anybody looks stupid, whether you believe in this team or you give up on this team. It's more so about who you are as a fan, how emotional you are about each and every game. I have no doubt in my mind that the Royals are going to go on a hot streak again. They're also going to have a rough stretch again. It's just such a long season, and that is going to be something that you just have to tell yourself as a baseball fan. Like, these rough stretches suck. It is really hard to find positives when you're playing baseball like this. Back-to-back series losses, one of those being to the team that's worse than you in your own division, a White Sox team that's not very good, and the Yankees just push you all around the ballpark. I mean, you got a ton of Yankees fans at Kauffman Stadium in this series. It just pisses you off. It does. And that's never going to change in this sport. I mean, we have seen far worse Royals teams. We've seen bad offenses. This is one of the worst offenses we have seen in quite some time. But this regrouping thing, I know this Royals team and Matt Quatrero-led teams have been able to flush things rather quickly. That may not always result in a win the next day, but they're able to flush it. Like, I don't view it as this team has lost all confidence and they're not going to be able to rebound from getting smacked around by the Yankees. I feel they're going to have some surge in them. But you're going to have to do it sooner rather than later. You had that stretch where you went 17-4 after you were down in the dumps a little bit. I mean, you didn't hit rock bottom, but things were not trending in a positive direction. And you got back up on the beam, and you played really good baseball for a 3-week stretch. And you followed it up by going about 10-18. Poor baseball again. So you've had a really rough start to the season. You had a really good stretch, and you're back to not playing good baseball. So you're 500. Your season's not over because you're still within striking distance, and I would say even closer than striking distance for a playoff spot. But you don't want to mess around and find yourself 5 games back, and now you're really clawing and you can't really afford another bad stretch. They're going to have to get this rotation back into the role that they were on, put this bullpen in better chances to succeed, and the offense is going to have to take off at some point. I don't know if they have that in them. 68 games is a pretty big sample size. We are 2 weeks away from being able to say that we are at the halfway point of the season. And if you are at the halfway point of the season and you're a bottom 5 offense, you're not going to get to the middle of the pack. You're not going to get to a top 12 offense. And I don't view it with this team anyway. I don't see this offense being one of the top or even the middle of the pack of all of baseball. They are a team that is built on pitching, is going to be built on speed and defense. And if they can get enough offensively, they are going to go on another run. That's a big if. And that's a part of this regrouping. If they can regroup and come back this weekend, I mean, win tomorrow, and I'm going to go as far to say that a sweep would go a long way toward this regrouping. I mean, you win tomorrow, you sweep the weekend series against the Athletics, you have the off day on Monday, go see if you can win a road series against the Rangers. That has to happen. Whether you win or lose tomorrow, You got to regroup. There has to be something that changes with this team. Because if not, you're going to slip out of contention and you're really going to be clawing back. And then, yeah, as we mentioned yesterday, I'm not saying it's going to happen. My prediction is still that they're going to be buyers and they're going to give this team a chance. But if you screw around for too long and you fall back 7 games below 500, it's going to be pretty hard to justify this team being a buyer at the deadline. But first things first, find a way to win a game, get the confidence back, though I don't believe it's gone anywhere, but just to get back into a rhythm, and then go really take advantage of a struggling team over the weekend in the Athletics. That'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we'll have another reaction to the series finale and season series finale against the New York Yankees. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.